Life can often be described as fleeting, and we find ourselves not having enough time to really do the things we want to do. Now, what if I told you could live 10 times longer than a normal human? That would solve the issue of not having enough time to work on your hobbies now, right? You could travel the world, learn different languages, try all types of cuisines, and finally come back to your kids after taking so long to buy milk. Alright, maybe that last one's a bit of a stretch, but what happens to the people surrounding you? What happens to your friends and family that aren't as fortunate to live so long? Life moves on, right? What if you don't have anyone left to share your life and experiences with? Is living so long still worth it? What's the meaning of friendship when you know they'll be dead before you? This anime explores all those questions. Sousou no Frieren begins with an end of an adventure where the townspeople are celebrating and cheering on the heroes that have been gone for a whole 10 years. A mere 10 years? That's only a fraction of how long my dad's been gone for. Some of you guys might not get that, but Frieren here, she understands. As an elf, she can outlive over 100 generations of humans and therefore doesn't understand the concept of time from our perspective. That's a big detail we'll get into later. The same night they come back, a meteor shower that occurs once every 50 years blesses the sky. It's a beautiful view and everybody is soaking it in, but to Frieren,
it's alright,
the view could be better. So she says to the boys, I know a better spot. We can go there next time. I don't know if you were listening, but this meteor shower only occurs once every 50 years. I can't even stick to my New Year's resolutions for more than 3 months. But while I'm dealing with my goal to pay bills on time, the guys wonder if they're even going to be alive to keep that promise by the time the next one comes around. And as they ponder on the thought, Frieren is already halfway across the bridge to go exploring by herself. In the blink of an eye, 5 decades go by, and when she returns to the city, she notices things have changed. The buildings look different, a statue with her group got made, and Himmel, the hero that led their journey and saved countless lives along the way, is shorter than her now. Also, he's bald. Getting the gang back together, they go on one last adventure to see the meteor showers just like they had promised. And it's as amazing as Frieren said it was 50 years ago. You could say it was a view to die for because Himmel shortly after passes away. And during the funeral, Frieren just looks like it's another Tuesday, just business as usual, when all of a sudden, tears start running down her face. You see, to a human like Himmel, the 10 years they spent together was a huge portion of his life getting to know her day in and day out. He saw her as a dear friend, someone he shared a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with. But to an elf like Frieren, that was pretty much just a long week for her. The time they spent together was just a drop in the bucket, so she feels like she barely even knew him as a person, which is the exact reason why she was crying. Not just because he's gone, but also because she'll never get the opportunity to grow closer to him again. Anyone else's eyes sweating or just me?
The first episode was the perfect setup for the rest of the story. She doesn't understand why this drop in the bucket experience made her feel so emotional, so it propels her journey forward to retrace her steps from the 10-year adventure to learn more about herself and the comrades she fought along with. Now, I've had this unshakable feeling that this anime looks and feels different, but I couldn't really pinpoint what it was until I looked at other fantasy anime. Typically, the fantasy genre has strong beginnings and good hooks to really grab your attention, but after the world's been built and the story runs its course, the ending is usually really weak. In Sousou no Frieren, they take the weak ending and put it in front. It's genius! They can build the world from the ground up and really expand upon the foundation of the story, which is the experiences that Frieren carries along with her. On her journey of retracing steps, there's countless occasions where you can see her past influencing her actions where she would have been apathetic had she not felt some type of way. For example, in episode 2, Frieren tells her new apprentice that she just likes collecting magic spells as a hobby, and she has the most random ones like one to clean statues, one to turn grapes sour, one to spawn a field of flowers, one to get people to subscribe to her channel, wink wink, just some pointless magic that doesn't have very useful applications outside of chores. But once you see the dirty statue of Himmel and a woman wishing for a field of flowers surrounding it, you make the connection that maybe what Frieren is doing isn't so random after all. That there is a method to Frieren's journey in understanding her friends. You just have to connect the dots with the little hints they give you. Oh, and the spell about sour grapes? It turns out Aizen's favorite food is sour grapes. At this point, I'm like, wow, she actually cares about their opinions, but once you realize there's a lot more detail that's not even written out for you, the anime becomes even more emotional. If you pay attention to the dialogue, you'll notice that the characters speak in a much more reserved tone. It's usually very low volume, almost soft-spoken, even in scenes where they should be a bit higher, like in episode 3 where Frieren gets her skirt flipped by a kid. Which leads into my next point. There's very little change in facial expressions. Everybody looks like these two emojis 24/7, so combining the reserved voices and lack of facial expressions, this opens room for interpretation of how the characters feel. And because the audience never knows what the characters are thinking, they feel more alive and have greater depth to them. But when they do make a statement that fills those gaps of knowledge, that rewards the viewer as if they have also gained something in their journey with Frieren. Damn, that was deep. Let's get even deeper.
The concept of time is a big theme in the story, and Frieren being essentially immortal compared to a human affects her perception of it. At the beginning, we see time pass as Frieren herself would, and I kinda like that because it helps us understand her perspective. In a few seconds of scene changes, we see years go by just like that, and we can only assume that's exactly how it feels for her. I mean, she made a 50-year promise with the boys like it was a normal weekend hangout. Us humans couldn't even begin to imagine what it feels like to live with that thought in mind. As Frieren backtracks on her 10-year journey, you can see the remnants of the impact the hero's party had on the villages and towns nearby. There are statues that were built, stories that get passed down, but the living memories of people who were actually there would only last so long. What happens when they all pass away and Frieren is the only one that retains those memories? How could she even begin to make new memories with new friends when she knows she'll be the only one left remembering them? Damn, I need a therapist. Anyway, that's enough sadness for the day. Here's some cool shit to cure your depression.
You don't really realize because she doesn't showcase it too often, but Frieren being a part of the hero's party means she's OP as fuck. And it's been over half a century since she helped defeat the Demon Lord, so now that she's had more time to hone her magic, these guys ain't shit to her. The Elder Sage of Corruption that invented killing magic?
Bye, bitch.
The remnants of the Demon King's forces?
Bye, bitch.
And it's not just Frieren either, it's also Aizen's disciple Stark as well. Episode 6's fight between the Solar Dragon and Stark was just pure, unadulterated action that looked amazing from start to finish. At the beginning, you can feel the tension in the air as Stark is nervous and shaking, because he's a coward at heart. But as he steps up to the monster, his training takes over and he fights like a man possessed, eventually one-shotting the damn thing. The fight only lasts like 2 minutes, but like I always say, 2 minutes is enough to get the job done. While we do see some fights here and there, the anime really shines when there's less noise on the screen. It's the simpler moments that are really enjoyable, and that's because of the atmosphere it creates. The music always hits the right timing, the voice actors portray the emotions perfectly, the directing never feels off or funny, and the quality of animation hasn't dropped so far. Now the anime doesn't hook and hold on to you like other fantasy shows, it instead plants a seed that blossoms into a flower that you can appreciate as you watch more and more. Every episode, the audience is reminded how many years has passed since Himmel's death, and it's to show us that even though her adventure with him was just a small fraction of Frieren's life, the memories they shared together will stay with her until the end. And I think it's a great reminder that even if you have more time to live life, it can still be wasted just as fast if you don't choose to use it wisely, like subscribing to our channel. Just kidding, go outside and enjoy life.